Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of October 30th, 2017 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. If there are any disabilities prior to the meeting, please notify the clerk. Emergency doors are on your right and left. Please stand to salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilman Calamari?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Sears?
Here.
Councilman Oman?
Here.
Council President Bruno?
Here. First order is approval of minutes. August 7th, 2017, public meeting minutes. August 7th, 2017, conference meeting minutes. October 16th, 2017, closed session meeting minutes. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Sears?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President Bruno?
Yes. Before we go into general public discussion, we have a recognition tonight for a gentleman, Joe Giordano. The mayor will present. Joe was very instrumental in designing the new police website, which I think looked fantastic. So, Joe?
Mr. Giordano? Anybody from the council would like to come down and congratulate him also?
I'd just like to say,
The more the merrier.
I thought you did a nice job, so you're welcome. Don't look.
Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Giordano, who's on the very active in the football programs in town. And he did for us, did our the police website, which really needed updating, right? But it's really good. It really promotes the department. The links are easy to get to, and very, very creative, by the way. It's very nice. Okay, thank you very much. And so we'd like to give him a round of applause. Volunteering your time and expertise in updating the website of the Township of Washington Police Department. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. And we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Lieutenant Skinner, I'm sure, to say a few words, right?
I really just want to say thank you to Joe. Joe and I kind of met on LinkedIn, which is a business networking site, and Joe just offered to help. And we took his help graciously, and as we moved along, a lot of the officers in the department got involved. The website's very user-friendly, where we can do all of the updates ourselves. We've been using the blog system and the Twitter feed to keep the page updated pretty much on a weekly basis. And anytime we have an issue or a problem, we need a little help with the website, Joe's always a phone call away. He's also saved the town some money by now hosting our email for us also. So, and he's doing that also at no cost as a contribution to the department of the town. So maybe we can just give Joe one more round of applause.
From the police department also, and we'll keep you updated through that site. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Joe. We'll now move to general public discussion. Motion to open public.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Calamari?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Sears?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President Bruno?
Yes. Would anybody like to address council?
Good evening. My name's John Walcott. I live at Hickory Street. Take a few minutes to tell you. I'm a retired New York City detective. As 9/11 came, I got a real life-threatening illness, and we ended up staying here. We decided, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and when I retired, we moved here. So as I get through what I have to say, I'm not here to beat anybody up. I happened to see the TV last week, and I saw this. But there's some things, I've been involved in thousands and thousands of arrests in my career. So there's some things that, I just had to come here and just find out. I don't know who I'm voting for or anything like that, so it's not political. But I do know the Information Act doesn't lie. That's whatever we say or whatever we post, it's there forever. So I know, Mr. Bruno, you were involved in an altercation. It's a simple thing. An incident occurs, police are called. They determine whether it's probable cause or not. An arrest was made, obviously. I understand you probably took a plea deal to protect your family and your
Can I just
your
interrupt?
career.
There was no arrest made, and there was no altercation.
Well, there had to be an incident, or the police never get there. But I'm not going to dwell on that
That's
because it's
fine.
been all over
I just
town.
want to be clear.
Okay, now, but this is the most disturbing thing that I have. And obviously, it was your quote. If you were to win the majority, you plan on helping, still staying involved with the police department. You also plan on using your power as mayor to stop promotions and employment. That's a crime in itself. That is a crime. You cannot use your power as a political person to stop anybody's promotion. And if they do find out the allegations that the retired officer said to you were founded, every minority group, every person who ever put a bid in for the town, any person who doesn't get promoted will sue the city. And they would probably win. I've gone through this in my old town where we had $3,600 on top of our taxes to fight legal bills for 3 straight years until I sold my house and left. And if this story, which I'm sure is going to, hits national media, and believe me, I've worked a lot of Al Sharpton rallies, he will be here faster than you can put your vest back on and leave. That's my concern is more the financial impact this town is going to go through and the circus that may occur if you are elected. But you cannot, you quoted this, did you say that in this paper, this last paragraph? Was that your true words to the reporter? That some people, some employees are not going to get what they expect to get? Are that your words?
No, those are not my words.
Is the reporter here that wrote that story?
Basically, there was a lot of stuff that was taken out of context, and it had nothing to do with promotions.
I didn't mention promotion.
Yes, you did. You just.
Well,
you
it
just
says right here,
mentioned it.
employees who are not going to get what they expect to get.
I'm not going to argue with you, but that's not what it was. That's not what was said. What I was talking about is the employees in town, and I have it on my strategic plan, should be empowered to do their job. That was what was meant. I did not take anything about promotions. That
So,
was
okay,
taken
now
out
we'll
of
touch
context.
base on that. They're empowered to do their job. So one night, many years ago, the police were called to your home, is what I understand through people. I'm only been in town 4.5, 5 years, so I don't know anybody here. So obviously, there had to be a call made to the police, yes or no?
This matter was adjudicated 15 years ago. and
I
honestly,
didn't ask. I just
but
asked
I'm just saying,
how
I
the
have no
incident
further
came about.
comments regarding it.
Like I told you, I'm not here to
Okay, but I have-
beat
I
you
have
up
no
or not. That's
further
not what I'm
comments.
here. I'm here to say, are you the right man, or is he the right man, or was she the right woman?
Well,
Well, let's put that aside. But this is what the citizens should be concerned with. What happens if you do win the majority, and then this town is up in arms in lawsuits from now until my grandkids graduate? What do we do then? Where is the town going to get the money to pay all this litigation? And if you don't believe that someone's not going to come in and put a bid in, if you're a mayor, and say, I didn't get it because I'm a minority, you don't think they're going to sue? This is 2017. I heard somebody say, I read the story, somebody said, and it was a true statement, people are going to riot. That, it doesn't take much anymore. And believe me, I know the political world. I bodyguard mayors. I've been in Washington for 9/11. I know the deal. And I believe me, I've marched from the Bronx to Brooklyn and Manhattan with Mr. Sharpton many times. And I didn't, retire here to go back in time. That's what my concern is. Can you assure me that that won't happen? Can you assure the public that that won't happen? I mean, this quote here, the reporter's here, you're kind of saying he's lying. I don't know, it's not my, but what I'm
You
saying
said
is I can only
several
get what we
things. I'm
read.
not saying he's lying. I said it was taken out of context.
Okay, but.
That's what I'm saying.
But now, this is,
You have 1
it goes
minute.
back to
You
the
have 1 minute
Information
left,
Act.
just so you know.
This goes back to the Information Act. This is here, it's forever now. So every lawyer that comes in to sue this town is gonna go to this last paragraph. And I'm sure the council will tell you, that doesn't matter. In this, right here, in this thing here, you're just about teetering on a political crime. You cannot use your power to stop everybody. It doesn't work
There's
like
no
that.
intention of doing that, never did.
I would hope not. So in my last 30 seconds, tell me why I should vote for you. What are you gonna do to change here to tell me why? With all these skeletons, unknown or unknown.
I don't have skeletons, number one. Number two, I've done a lot for the town. I've addressed a lot of issues for the town. I've decreased taxes for the town. I've controlled budget spending. I've done what I was asked to do as a council person. And prior to me even getting on the council, I was very actively involved with the town, and I did a lot of work for them and volunteered.
Okay,
my
my
work all the time.
last 20 seconds, whatever's left.
That's it,
And the
yes.
other thing that concerns me is, last week call 911. You can't call, 911 is there, every time 911 is called, a police officer is
Sir,
in
I'm
jeopardy.
sorry, but
and the
your time
town
is
is
up.
in jeopardy.
Your time is
Because
up,
the
I'm
officer
sorry.
doesn't know what
Right.
he's going to or what it's for.
Thank you.
And if someone gets killed, then we have another problem in town. Mayor, thank you so much for your service. I know you're going to retire. We appreciate everything you've done.
Good evening. John Snyder, representing the Pascack Press. My address is 606 Chestnut Street. The second to last thing I would want to do ever is become part of a news story. The last thing I would want to do is get something wrong, especially in print. So I'm not here to weigh in on the story beyond the fact that I wrote it. And I would like to know, sir, if you're maintaining those remarks were taken out of context, I would ask you, one, why you didn't clarify that in the previous week, and two, what you may believe the proper context is for the answer to the direct question about could you, if you succeed as mayor, have a good working relationship with the police department given their involvement in bringing this matter forward, if such direct connection can be made. What's the proper context for those comments?
So you asked me that question about the police department, and I responded to you that I felt I had a good relationship with the police department.
Yes.
I've been visiting the police department. I've been speaking to the policemen since I became a councilman. I felt we had a good relationship. You asked me that question, I answered that.
Yes.
I don't know if you put that in the paper or not. I also told you that the employees that work in the town that I've been able to meet since I've been on the council have said to me that they're happy that I'm here and they're happy that I'm working for them to get things done. That's
Right.
what I meant in terms of that conversation. My conversation also with you was that what I say, I like printed because I don't want it out of context. And you said, well, I have to write all this down. So I don't know what you wrote down, didn't, but that's what I said. Did I not say that about the employees?
Yes, you did.
Did I not say that about the police department, my relationship?
Yes, you said all that. Everything
Okay.
you just said, you've said in the piece. And
thank you.
that doesn't mean the context was incorrect. I believe I
Well, I think it
established the
is.
context.
I think what you wrote is incorrect, so
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is there anybody else?
Bob Gilson, 288 Beach Street. And maybe on to some things that are a little bit more productive. Last meeting, I mentioned the alarm fee. It's a fee every year, it's $50. Currently, seniors are exempt from that fee. I queried about the possibility of extending that to those who are disabled, perhaps those that can demonstrate it by either a Medicare, Social Security, disability certification, or something like that. I'm wondering if that suggestion has gone further, and if that's something that could possibly be done for next year.
Well, we can certainly talk about it, but we have not talked about it since you were here last time.
Okay.
It's something that we'd have to review, and the council would have to probably put it in the ordinance.
Okay. How does that process, how does one keep that ball moving or keep that?
Well, the council president would put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we would discuss it, and then possibly, if it goes through, would, the ordinance would have to be amended.
Right. Currently, in the American Community Survey, which is the basis that you use for the COAH study that was done, says about 19.9% of the residents of the town would be seniors. Those are 65 and above. If you apply that, probably about 19% of the people who have alarms
Probably a little more.
Might be more, right. Those that are disabled represent a much smaller part of the population, but probably are just as needy to have an alarm system that could help them in times of need. It seems to be a gesture that would make a lot of sense, and I just bring that up. Second point, I also talked about commutation. Has any further discussion been involved in terms of improving the situation and getting up from 35 spaces to something greater than that in the future? Is that anything?
I think the answer to that is we need the property.
Okay.
Right now, the lot is full to capacity. We made it clear that we've oversold the parking spots. So the question is, there is a lot of property in that corner. And there's the red house is our property, and how we handle it and what we can do with it would be the discussion.
And another matter, I think last year at some session I attended, the town decided not to go forward on something with bicycling. There was something about encouraging the use of bicycling around the town, and the town could have gotten a grant. Was there some? I
It
think
was a bicycle route.
bicycle route. Why would the town not put a bicycle rack at the firehouse for commuters? There's one at the train station in Ridgewood, there's one at the train station in Westwood. Both of
Actually
them-
looking at that now.
Okay, great.
And got some bids, and,
Yeah, Mr. Sears has gone out and got some bids
Right.
on the cost of it.
yeah.
And then last, I understand that the new owners of the Y are already in discussions with New Jersey Transit about using that parking area and charging commuters to use that as a possibility in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you, Madam Mayor, know that?
No. I'll check on it tomorrow, though.
Would that jeopardize their,
That would be a different use of that property, and they would have to go for a variance.
And then they would be taxed on it, I believe.
And they would be taxed on that portion of the property.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the, I'm sorry, but she only can come up once. I've went through this before. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jeffrey Westerfeld, 315 Fern Street. At the last meeting, Mr. Bruno had mentioned Hull Terrace, that is apparently a private road here in the town. And it also came to light that apparently the town had chosen to pave that road a few years back, and that we're also providing, I guess, snow removal and leaf removal from that private road. Is that correct?
The road was paved years ago, yes, and I understand that we were plowing it, and we were not doing leaf pickup, but I believe the Madam Mayor mentioned that she was going to do leaf pickup this season.
I also think that somebody mentioned possibly making this a town road. Is it?
There was discussion about it, yes.
I was just curious, since we're providing the snow removal and the leaf pickup, if the residents are reimbursing the town for these services on their private property.
I don't believe so. Are they?
Well, unfortunately, I don't really believe it's private property at this point. I believe that it's quasi-public or something. I looked through as many old files as we could look at, and originally just one family named Hull owned all those homes. So I think people thought it was a private road, but there was some paperwork to indicate that it's not a private road. Now, there are parameters, I think, for dedicating a road to the town to make sure it fits certain criteria. But unfortunately, in 1997, the road was paved by former administration, and at that point, snow plowing was done. And I did authorize them to pick up leaves this time, but I don't know, we have to do more research on it,
So-
frankly.
So what you're saying is we don't know whether this is a private road or actually a
It's
town road?
probably not, but I don't have the exact proof because I've been reading through a lot of documents.
Is there a reasonable time frame when we might find out, so I could come back and actually
Well,
find
as
out?
soon as we're finished, we'll have the town attorney look it over and see what he decides.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Or anybody else?
Good evening. Beth Ritter, 699 Jacqueline Road, Washington Township. I watched with dismay and embarrassment the last council meeting on television. Initially, I thought, how sophomoric. But just when I thought it could not get any worse, the conversations imploded and it became toddleresque. For a long period of time, I prided my family on choosing a secret gem of Bergen County. Now I fear we are the laughingstock of the Pascack Valley. I am proud to say that I was a public servant for well over 13 years. I know all too well that public service is a thankless job. I was the director of constituent services for 2 U.S. congressmen and 2 U.S. senators. In my career, I had the privilege of working with members of all political parties, most religions, and most ethnic backgrounds. We worked closely together for the common good of all New Jersey residents, not just members of a certain political party. I am not at all happy about the ethnic slurs brought to the attention of this chamber, whether made in jest or by mistake. These are sad and scary times we live in, and this is just another example of poor decision-making in the century of cameras and recordings. There was a time when people ran for public office because they wanted to help others. Now, good people are afraid to run for fear that their friends and families will get pulled into the fray and embarrassed. When a former council person spoke last week, I must say that I chuckled because, in my humble opinion, that is exactly when smear, dirty, and party politics came into the fray. My dear friends were ridiculed and embarrassed by in honor of the ticket's advancement. You can see how far that got everyone. Their teenage daughter was dragged into the campaign, and our family friends were saddened and disappointed. I was mortified. Although I didn't have a chance to talk to Vito to tell him I'd be bringing him up in conversation, when I was a member of a U.S. Senator's staff, Vito Trauss called the office, and he said, Beth, I've got this problem, and I think you can help me. I did not say, where do you live? I did not ask what his religious background was. I didn't ask anything. I said, how can I help you? He said, I haven't gotten my medals from World War II. I sat down with the gentleman that does medals in my office. I sat down with the U.S. Senator. And within a few weeks, Vito and his daughters came into the office, and we were able to present him with his medals. I brought home bodies of loved ones from countries where they died. I helped people with Social Security disability issues, immigration issues, and Medicare issues. Do you think I ever asked anyone what their party, religious, or ethnic affiliation was? I did not. Please focus on moving forward and paying it forward. Do it for our seniors, for our residents, and for our children. Frankly, I don't think there's a need for a political party on a local level. You should all just be working to help others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Or anybody else? Make a motion to close, no hands? No, sorry.
I'd like to comment on the last mayor and council meeting.
Name and address.
Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. I'd like to comment on the last mayor and council meeting, which was Monday, the 16th of this month. I actually am imploring the township residents to watch this fiasco online before going to the polls on November 7th. What happened at this meeting, I believe, was staged. That a retired Washington Township police officer of 25 years, who now resides in Wyckoff, specializing in security and investigations, would out of the blue conveniently show up at a mayor and council meeting in Washington Township 4 weeks prior to an election to speak about a police report incident from 2002 involving a current councilman running for mayor is disturbing, a form of bullying, and low-down dirty politics to me. Mr. Calamari and Mr. Sears, I believe you planned and encouraged this, and I don't want to comment. In the Pascack Press on Sunday, the 23rd of this month, it states that the Pascack Press was shown this court disposition on 9/29/2017 as a text to a reporter's personal number from James Hansen, with whom the reporter met with once before to discuss Memorial Field. How convenient. Mr. Hansen, Mr. Spezial, and Eamon Toomey are all on the Memorial Field Committee in our town. They are on the rec board that's appointed by the mayor, and they coach in our town. And all three then proceeded to trash Mr. Bruno at the last mayor and council meeting. All three of them also supported Mr. Calamari and Mr. Sears. As a matter of fact, one hand always washes the other in good old Washington Township. Mr. Calamari and Sears were visibly campaigning for turf at Memorial Field with all three of these men in front of the Foodtown Shopping Center. You see how things go here in our little enclave, Washington Township, a wonderful, quote, family town. Sure is, the Calamari family basically runs this town. Dad is president of the zoning board, the brothers are police officers, several other family members involved in our local politics. Now Mr. Calamari is going to be our mayor. Our town will be controlled by one family with loyal subjects spread out all over our voting districts. Ask yourself, are these the type of men that I want around my children and have as a political representative? Also very unsettling at the last council meeting were Washington Township police officers called in by Mr. Bruno to remove Mr. Hansen. One of them was in uniform while acting as a police servant to all people in the residents in this town. And he started to give his opinion about a 2002 incident regarding Mr. Bruno, and I believe his quote was, "Oh, I know something about this," in uniform while being employed by the municipality. I really object to this. I am wondering, did our chief of police speak to this, the police officers in this town after making political statements in public while wearing a uniform and having a badge? A police officer is supposed to be fair and impartial when performing their duties. There's also an ad in the Pascack Press that came out yesterday where the Washington Township Local 206, I think, but I think they belong to the Pascack Valley PBA, is supporting the Republican ticket. And I also question how inappropriate it is that law enforcement would even run a political ad. I am a former police officer, and I never once made a political statement in uniform while wearing a badge, and I'm proud of the fact that I never did. While representing my municipality, I never did this. Also, there's an Arthur Cummings running for council, and his daughter, I didn't even know this, Until recently, he is a police officer in town. Ask yourself, how would this look and work in town if these candidates should win the election? I'd like to ask Mr. Calamari and Mr. Cummings, would you recuse yourself from any matters regarding decisions with our police department? There seems to be a conflict of interest here. Voting for this team to me is a vote to support the status quo, give control of too much power into the limited number of families in town, and lend your support to what I see as a campaign of dirty politics.
1 minute,
Your
Tony.
campaign slogan should be all in the family. It perpetuates the status quo. Think of the city of Hackensack, the Ziza family. How'd that work out? When people in power are not honest and straightforward with the people they represent, they play dirty politics while attending church, yet know quite well how to stab their fellow man in the back. You must ask yourself, why would I vote for this? And also, your pamphlet says, vote for new leadership. I beg to differ with that after all the stuff that I just read to all the people in the township of Washington Township.
I'd like to respond to that, please. Tony seems very hung up on my family, and I had a feeling she would address them again tonight. So I'm going to take a minute and just give everyone a little history about my family in the town. My father's brother John came to Washington Township in the 1960s. My father and some of his relatives soon followed. My uncle was elected to the town council in the early 70s. He also served as town treasurer for a few brief years back then. He relocated to Pennsylvania in the late 1970s and passed away earlier this year. His cousin Julie was asked to be town clerk sometime in the late 1970s. She served as town clerk for many years and is currently enjoying retirement for over 10 years now. Julie's husband Boris served as director of public safety for many years until he passed away in 1992. My father's sister Marie was asked to fill the position of DMF secretary back in the 70s. Back then, town employees were asked to wear several hats, so she also served as the secretary for many town boards, as well as the police department over the years. She passed away over 20 years ago. My sister volunteered as a girls softball coach, and my brother coached intramural basketball, both for many years. My father has served on the Township Planning Board for over 30 consecutive years. This is a volunteer, unpaid position. The board elects its own chairman, similar to how the council elects its council president. He has been chairman for over 20 years. The other members of the board consistently choose him for his good judgment, professionalism, and hard work on the board. Furthermore, regardless of the outcome of the election, my father plans on stepping down from his position on the planning board at the end of this year. He is also chairman of the Washington Township Republican County Committee. This committee has one function: to support Republican candidates for elected positions at all levels. These committee members are elected by the registered Republicans in Washington Township. They have no power or authority in the town. This is an elected position, and he has run unopposed for as long as I can remember. This is due to one simple reason: no one else wants the job. I have two cousins on the committee as well. They are elected in their districts and also run unopposed. My father asked them to please fill these positions so they aren't left vacant. If anyone is interested in these positions, please contact him, as I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you about taking them over. He also personally purchases and delivers a meal for the hardworking election board workers on election day, something that is not required of him, but he has volunteered to do for many years. My brother John is the only relative I have working in a paid position in the township. He is a lieutenant in the police department with more than 24 years of service to the community. He was hired in 1993 through a process administered independently by the Bergen County Police Chiefs Association. He scored second highest score on the written examination out of over 70 applicants. He scored third on the interview portion and was subsequently ranked number 2 for the position. The person who ranked number 1 accepted a position with the New Jersey State Police, and so my brother was hired. I'm proud of each one of these family members and their record of service and commitment to our community and its residents. I seek to continue this tradition of service as your mayor. So, anyone who thinks my family is running the town is absolutely wrong. We have a long history in the town. But as you see, most of the people are deceased because it goes back that far. My brother and myself are the only two people doing anything for the town right now other than my dad, who will be resigning his position at the end of the year. So there it is for the public to decide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Scott Spezialis, 785 Washington Avenue. I'm here to talk about Washington Avenue. My problem with Washington Avenue and the current traffic. Last council meeting, we had a resident come up, Julie Lipkin, and discuss the constant traffic that continually comes in both directions and goes over the yellow line, the double yellow line. So am I correct in assuming that the double yellow line is a single lane road?
It's a single lane road until it gets to the area where you can go into a separate lane to make a left.
Correct.
Something the county has put there recently to see how it would work and see if
So,
it would alleviate some of the congestion at that section. And as police have been watching it, Hooper, the chief, told me that it has let more cars through. There's been some improvement. I know that Ms. Lipnick got up and said, you know, cars coming this way would cause a problem. But right now, they're seeing how it works out.
So, okay.
Also, it's probably going to be gone in a few weeks, so it's going to be paving it.
okay, so one of my questions is, in the short-term solution to the problem right now, which is 2 lanes of traffic forming in front of Jacqueline Avenue every morning
It's going further back now, yeah.
and every evening. Okay, this is continual. Now, a year and a half ago, I came in this room and reported this to the council when Mr. Allman was president. Okay? I was T-boned pulling out of my driveway by a car who was coming down the hill outside the yellow lines where there was a single row of traffic, and I got hit broadside. Okay? 2 years before that, I came in here and reported the same thing when I was crossing the street walking my dog. Somebody came down the hill outside the double yellow lines and almost killed me. This morning, my daughter got T-boned, pulling out of the driveway. Okay? Same thing. A single row of traffic where it opened up, so they let her pull out of the driveway, and down comes somebody barreling down and T-boned her. Okay? I'm asking for a short-term solution to the problem. Okay? It needs to be addressed. I know it's a problem. We all, listen, it's a problem. I know that, okay? But I'm looking for a solution. I know that when a police officer is to park on Jacqueline Road, there isn't a single person who passes on the double yellow line, not one. Today, after they went through process and issued 4 or 5 summonses to the person who hit my daughter's car before they impounded her vehicle, there were lights going and 2 police cars were there, and not a single person went outside the double yellow line and tried to pass. By the county increasing the width of the road with the dotted line and making it 2 lanes, you're encouraging more people to come down the hill and form 2 lanes earlier. You're not helping the matter, you're making it worse. So I'm asking for a short-term solution. I just want to be able to pull out of my driveway without getting killed, okay? It's a single lane road. It's double yellow. It's a single lane road, okay? It's not being addressed, okay? I know it's a problem. I know it's difficult. Believe me, I know. But the road's not wide enough to make it 2 lanes. So it's a single yellow road, whether it needs cones, whether it needs signs, whether it needs something to designate that there is no passing on that road on a double yellow. If somebody was to pass on a double yellow on Pascack Road, they'd be issued a summons.
1 minute, Scott.
So I'm just looking to try and ask if after last council meeting, Mrs. Lipnick came up and discussed it, and it's been discussed a number of times. Is there any type of discussion going on to try and come up with some kind of a short-term solution before we start dealing with redoing the intersection and stuff like that, you know?
They have been doing a lot of special details out there, based on comments, from the public. I'll have to get an update for you on that. But again, we have to get back to the county and give them feedback on this new.
Is it possible, for example, to have a county, if we don't want to handle it ourselves internally because, we're extremely busy, is it possible to have a county police officer maybe control some of the crisis problems we have with the double yellow? Or, I mean, they came in and they put the double wide lane, so, now is it possible to get them involved? Or, I don't know what the answer is. Listen, I know it's a problem. I hear you,
We've been talking to them a lot, as much as.
I know. Listen, I know what's going on, but, this morning, my daughter got T-boned, okay? I've been T-boned before already. You know what? If you're going to wait till somebody gets killed there, it's too late.
Chief Hooper is going to be giving them and have that feedback, and then we'll see what comes from that. But they have
Can you
been doing
wrap
a lot
up,
of
Scott,
special
please?
details out there.
So my suggestion would be, before, my last 30 seconds, to, and I don't know what the answer is, but I know this. If I sit in my window and I watch every morning before I go to work, I know if there's a police car or a police officer or somebody involved in police matters on Jacqueline Road, then nobody passes. Nobody goes over the double yellow. Nobody comes flying down the hill. They remain in a single file. Listen, they know better. They know better. They just do it because they're in a hurry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
We'll see if we can get a county person out there.
Sorry about your daughter, Scott.
I think Mr. Sears, or I believe Mr. Sears, had talked about putting stanchions or some type of plastic
Road
divider.
stakes up.
And it was felt that wouldn't work or might result in additional accidents. And one of the next step was to widen the two lanes further down, I guess further west. I mean, can we ask both the county and the police, Chief Hooper, if there is a design that possibly could assist? Because it is something that occurs. I mean, if you're going west, you see it all the time. I mean, it's not something new. It's, and Scott, unfortunately, is, his family is being
Like I said,
impacted.
there's been a lot of discussion recently on it. We'll see what we could, they could do with the county.
Okay.
Put a county police person there.
Well, I thought we had asked, and I thought they would not patrol
They don't,
for that purpose. So they, so if we did ask and they won't do it, do we know that? And if we're not sure, can we ask again?
we'll ask them again. Last time they weren't going to.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Julie, sorry.
You're in 160 Adams Place. I've been meeting every time I come up here and I forget. The clock doesn't work. Is somebody going to do something with the clock to please make it work? I mean, it's very pretty at night and it all lights up, but, we're changing times again. Why doesn't the clock work?
I don't know.
I didn't think you did.
We've had
but
this
I'm just
discussion
saying.
before. I don't know why it doesn't work. Probably because we didn't send anybody up there to fix it.
Okay, I just,
My guess.
could somebody try to work on the clock?
Correct,
All right,
2
simple.
times a day.
Second question.
Yeah.
I came out of a meeting on Thursday night, and when I went to get in my car, I noticed in the back of the parking lot, there's quite a few 55-gallon black drums, and I didn't know how many. And I kept thinking about it since Thursday, but then today when I pulled in, they were still there. There's about 15 of them. Could somebody tell me why there are 15 black 55-gallon drums in the back of our,
I can't. Mary Ann?
because they're all blocked off?
There's a quest.
Yeah.
Quest one, yeah,
There was 3 monitoring wells that were installed last week, I believe.
last week.
And those are the drums that, from the samples that were taken. They are coming on Wednesday to take them.
What, is that contaminated soil?
We do not believe, we hope it isn't,
Monitoring wells for the water.
for the water.
From the old,
For the water, from the
old,
contamination that,
Yeah, well,
years ago. But they've drilled additional wells, just monitoring wells.
okay, so, all right, but so we don't, you won't know. I mean, are they going to tell us there's something in there?
I'm sure they're going to give us results of what they find in terms of any kind of contamination of the water, if there is any.
Okay, but so we don't know if it's a
Right.
contaminated situation or not, so,
Mary Ann,
okay.
this is part of that ongoing situation.
No, I know what it's part of, which is,
And-
when you say this, I know what it's part of Quest. And that they come all the time, but I've never seen
Right.
them take out 55, now that you say what it is, I've never seen them take that out. I mean, I worked here many years, I've never seen big 55-gallon drums of dirt come away from us. Usually they come, they do something, 1, 2, 3, and they're gone. I mean, I've seen that for many, many years.
Well, don't forget they have to drill the wells, so they're taking out soil.
Now they're drilling new wells? Is that what they did?
Yes.
What was wrong with our old wells?
Well, they weren't there. There's different locations for the wells.
Okay, so they're looking,
That's additional locations.
all right.
And there were
thank you.
3 different depths. So one of them went pretty far down, I think 120 feet. or
Well, that's what I'm
something
saying, there's
that.
like 12, 15, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering what is in there, I didn't have any idea, okay.
We haven't gotten any results yet.
But will you tell the council, or will the council know and the people know
We're
what was
definitely
in
not going
there?
to be keeping it a secret.
No, the council's aware that that was happening.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's,
We even notified the residents around there.
oh,
so-
did you? Okay, letters went out, all right.
Just the houses adjoining that property.
Oh, we have residents here who are joining us.
No, the ones in the corner of the parking lot. That was where it was limited to the people who were going to be affected by the noise.
Good evening. I'm Julie Lipnick, 184 Finnerty Place. I've lived in town long enough, some almost close to 30 years, and I just feel compelled to express my opinion about last meeting. Mr. Bruno, you came under attack from many sides. You were also sent an anonymous letter and publicly asked to step down as councilman and president and drop out of the race because of a mistake that you made some 15 years ago. That being said, who here, elected, appointed, or volunteer, does not have something in their past for which they do not regret saying or doing? In the same time frame, some 15 years ago, I was a classroom aide over at Brookside School, then a 5-6 school. As an aide, lunch and recess was a part of our job. Not one day in the fall went by when the boys didn't play football. The language that they used when engaged in the game was shocking and as disgusting as what we had witnessed. After several warnings, then Principal Dr. Mary Meiselick banned football during recess. The boys protested, and when asked why they felt they had to use that type of language, these boys replied, "Well, that's how my coach talks." I witnessed firsthand the art of anger and foul language by a coach at a game against Paramus at that time, throwing the clipboard, cursing at the player for all to hear. When I asked that, why did that have to take place, I was told by the coach, "Get a grip, that's the way the game is played." Let's remember, please, these are young, impressionable kids, and yet many coaches continue to coach today and perpetuate this type of behavior. I guess we have a double standard here. We should have second thoughts about this type of character allowed to use to coach our youth. School districts, colleges, universities across the country spend millions of dollars on anti-bullying programs. We have witnessed many suicides among our young due to bullying. Not one parent whose child is a victim will deny they hold their child victim close and assure that child it will get better one day. The behavior last meeting proves otherwise. Mr. Calamari, I have a question for you. Earlier this year, if you recall, there was an issue with my tax payment. In a closed session after I had spoken, you stated that forgiving me the interest against my late payment would set a precedent among other taxpayers, and they would then deliberately pay their taxes late and expect the same type of treatment. Refresher. My taxes were paid on time. I called you the next day for an explanation and asked if you had read my detailed letter, the timeline sent to all council members. You replied to me, no. So you made a statement, a decision based on what? Certainly not the facts. And that's frightening for me. Taxpayers of Washington Township, we don't need a mayor who will just make a decision without the facts, just based on personal choice or agenda. In closing, I wish to say, Mr. Bruno, we proudly have your sign on our lawn, and we ask you, stay the course and fight the fight.
Anybody
May I
else?
respond to that, Bob? Wait, when you're done, may I respond? If your taxes weren't late, why was there even a talk about interest? You just said your taxes weren't-
Hold on, I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, I
I
should
don't want to go back and
Yeah,
forth.
okay.
Because
So if I remember correctly, they were late, otherwise there would be no discussion. There was something where an account number got transposed someplace. And I believe the bottom line is it was on someone in your household's mistake who transposed them, and so the taxes were not paid on time. That's my recollection of it. I don't want to go back and forth. And the town would not have charged interest, I assume, if the taxes were paid on time. And that I also championed, once I got the facts, that we compromised on a refund for you. Again, sorry, rhetorical question. I don't want to go back and
Yeah,
forth.
please, if you
Okay,
can.
that's it.
Is there anybody else?
Jim Hansen, 11 Lindenwood Court, downtown. Last meeting, I sat here quite calmly, and I do believe every citizen gets 5 minutes to speak. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was decided many years ago, from what I know. I've only been coming to meetings for 3 years. I've witnessed people from the audience saying lots of stuff, shouting out of turn. I couldn't believe I was subjected to having the police called when I sat here calmly. There's rights that citizens have to speak. As public officials, a lot of times I've seen things said to the public officials that they don't like. Mr. Bruno, you didn't like it. Peter, you probably didn't like a lot of what was said last meeting either. I've seen Janet take more heat and Mr. Ullman more heat when you were council president. It's part of the job. As part of the community, I feel it's our job to come out and bring stuff to people's attention that's important to people. What happened was very important to me and my family, and I brought it up to people's attention. And I do believe every citizen should do that. It's not a politician that's going to come out and say, I was really bad a long time ago. They don't do that. They keep it hidden. It's usually the reporters that end up bringing it out. Nobody tells them themselves. But it's the character of what occurs when that information comes out and how you respond to it. So when I asked the questions, you didn't want to answer it. You called the police in. When the police came in, or as you started dialing, I was like, if you want me to go, I'll go. Tell me my 5 minutes are up, and I'll move along. It was quite an event. It's not one I came to participate in. I came to participate in my right to speak. You know, it's unfortunate what had to be spoken about. So I'm really concerned about the article that was written by the reporter, in that when he came out and talked to me, he had a recording. He knew the context. He said, I'm a reporter. I knew it was a reporter, and he told me it was being taped. So I'm quite certain that that reporter put it in the right context. That's his job. That's what he went to school for. That's how he serves the public, is to make sure things are factually correct. And I am absolutely certain and have confidence that what he said is in the right context. So I do want to end with a thank you. Thank you all for your service. Janet especially, you've done a great service for your career, and appreciate that. Whoever's next, you serve everybody, and you need to serve everybody. And I just don't know that with the history of what's there, that the police can have respect for somebody who did what had happened, and then the way I was treated. I'd hope no citizen gets treated that way for sitting here in front of the microphone, now on YouTube, and having the police called in. 5 guys coming in. So, thank you very much for your time. I hope everybody here gets served with respect and has the ability to speak for 5 minutes about what their First Amendment right is, whatever they really want to talk about. Have a great evening.
Anybody else? See no hands, motion to close.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. So moving to ordinances, adoption of second reading. We don't have any. We have introduction of a first reading, ordinance number 17-19, is that right? An ordinance providing for no-knock registry for peddling, soliciting, and canvassing within the Township of Washington. Hang on one second.
Buy me a fancy pen like you have.
Okay, we'll go back. An ordinance providing for no-knock registry for peddling, soliciting, and canvassing within the Township of Washington. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 17-19 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. Resolution number 17-320, authorizing publication of ordinance number 17-19 and schedule public hearing. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. Ordinance number 17-20, an ordinance amending the property maintenance code with regard to condition of sidewalks. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 17-20 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. Resolution number 17-321, authorizing publication of ordinance number 17-20 and schedule public hearing. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. Ordinance number 17-21, an ordinance amending the firehouse parking lot regulations. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 17-21 at first reading by title.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. Resolution number 17-322, authorizing publication of ordinance number 17-21 and schedule public hearing. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Calamari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes. We have individual resolutions, consent agenda. All the following items have been determined to have unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 17-317, Resolution 17-323, Resolution 17-324, Resolution 17-325, Resolution 17-326, Resolution 17-327, Resolution 17-328, Resolution 17-329, Resolution 17-330. Resolution 17-332. Is there no
331 is closed session.
closed session? Okay. Gentlemen, any resolution you'd like to be removed or talked about, questioned?
I just have a question on 317, and...
Motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
I'd just like to ask Sue, as our custodian and responsibility for fulfilling these types of requests, or on Oprah, more than the Public Meetings Act, your thoughts on the legislation, and do you view it as a assistance in you fulfilling your function and performing your duties, or do you think this is going to be add additional burden?
Well, as I had addressed this a couple meetings ago, before we even put the resolution on last time, this is something that's been in the works for, I would say, at least 2 or 3 years with Loretta Weinberg, if not longer. She's been trying to make a lot of changes on different issues addressing and transparency. I'm all for transparency. Listen, if I have it and you're entitled to it, I will give it to you. However, when you start reading some of this, it is very cumbersome when you start the different, like I mentioned last time, they want some of the advisory boards to have someone there to take minutes and take notes. And I was in a class in Atlantic City about 3 years ago in a room full of clerks, and I stood up there in front of everybody on the microphone saying, and who, pray tell, is going to be doing these minutes? And they said, well, the clerk. I said, how can I be in 5 different places at once? So it will be burdensome. They do explain, this I found on the leading class, and I felt this was something that explained it even more so than what the actual legislation did. And even reading over it today, it kind of makes your head spin on all the different things that you want us to do. Again, some of these things with the advisory consultant and deliberative materials, which is stuff that is exempt under Oprah. It's going to make things a little more difficult. Is it going to be cumbersome? Yeah. I'll be speaking to our attorney a lot more, saying, can I? What should I do? These are really self-explanatory. Government Records Council, it's a good thing to have someone on there from each leg of the life because it gives a different experience and a different view. As we're putting minutes on the website, I have no problem doing that. I think it's great to put that stuff on the website. In fact, if there's people that want to see more, if we can do it, I'll put it up there. I have no reason to not. So I'm all for transparency, just depending on how it will go. Again, volunteers, that's going to affect the volunteers. Are they a volunteer or are they going to be a public employee according to this? That's going to affect people volunteering. Are they going to want to volunteer if they're going to be considered a public employee and be under the scrutiny of Oprah law? I could read through each one of these and have a feeling on each one.
Okay.
It's something that I will tell you, I went to a meeting last week and 82 towns have already submitted their opposition to this. And they're still encouraging more and more. Clerks are all for openness, but when it becomes burdensome, I've had at least, Mary Ann, you walked in my office and my head has been spinning with the Oprah request lately. It's just been, it's from a range of old records to new records to property record cards. At least 15 within the last 2.5 weeks. Okay. And each one needs to have some attention to it, some more detailed than others. Yeah. There's only 2 of us. Yeah.
Mr. President,
And research where it is.
let me ask you a question.
Yes, me or Sue?
Sue, I'm sorry.
The language that permits you to serve as a records custodian for a volunteer fire department?
Hello, you want me at your meetings?
Yeah.
See, I'm the record custodian, so when an organization goes, or a department wants to destroy a government record, when that retention period is up, there's all guidelines everyone needs to go through in a chart, and it explains, how many, 3 years, 6 years,
Right.
permanent, whatever it may be. Like, for example, I sent over the sign up for the website for your deputy chief to sign it. We talked about it today, in fact, I saw him for a couple of minutes, and I said, did you have a chance to look it over yet? He said, I haven't had a moment too, but he said, once I get into it, he goes, I said, call me, I'll work with you on it.
Okay.
I'm still a record keeper.
All right.
But to be there at a meeting as well is doing, it goes
Ridiculous.
above and beyond,
Okay, thank you.
in my opinion.
Okay, so where does that leave us? We all agree, or anything need to be pulled?
Bob, I have
Yep.
one question on each of two of them.
Okay.
On 17-324, the stale checks, stale dated checks, was there a reason, and if not, in the future, can we put who the checks were made out to? I don't know if that violates any type of law, but I'd like to know who the people who we wrote checks to who are not cashing them.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I didn't take a look at the agenda until about 4 o'clock today, and I went right to Joy, and I said, I understood the rationale for it. It came out of an exercise reconciling bank statements and seeing these recurring old checks. So that's one of the things our new CFO has been able to tackle. I went ahead and I did identify all the payees and the reasons for the check and the dates of the check. If anybody has any questions, I do have that information.
I don't this time, but if it's going to be something we do regularly, it'd be nice to have on this recap
Yeah.
sheet also.
Yeah.
Those few things.
Well, I wanted to make sure they didn't appear to be legitimate,
Okay.
things that we still are going to be owing. Some of them dated back till 2011. Most of them were in the way of escrow refunds or refunds for flag football.
Okay. So in addition to the CFO asking that we do it, you took a quick look and I'll say you're in agreement with what you saw so far?
From what I could tell, I have no reason. Now, this doesn't mean if the person comes back and says, you owe me the
We might
money,
have to
we wouldn't
reissue.
cut a new check. But
Right.
these checks are stale anyway.
Okay.
They're just clogging up the bank recs.
So how stale are they?
The CFO does it every couple of years to try to clean things up.
It should be done regularly, every 6 months, if a check is it's stale.
Oh.
But some of them were 2000, the current account, the oldest was from 2014. It was for a tax assessor association. Then there were some as late as 2016. For instance, one was food for the 9/11 service, and I said to my secretary right away, well, we need to make sure this person is paid. I said, we said maybe they wanted to take it as a donation, that's why they didn't cash. So we'll follow up with these people. Certainly, if anybody came forward and, we could cut them another check.
Okay.
The trust account ones went back to 2011. The general capital fund went back to 2012. The animal control fund went back to April of 2016. So, again, I think it's just to enable her to, to clean up the paperwork for reconciliations
Okay.
and take them off the books. Again, if anybody was to come back and say, you owe me this money, we would certainly issue another check.
Okay, if in the future, if you wouldn't mind asking her just to add that information.
Sure.
When this is put in front of us. And on 17-325, canceling general capital grant receivables, et cetera, it doesn't say in here who requested this.
Well, I will tell you that this was done by the CFO, again.
Okay.
This was part of the corrective action plan.
Okay.
This addresses an audit comment by the auditors that was also a subject of a special, when the audit is tendered to the state, they take a look at them, and that was one of 3 items where they said we need immediate action on, and this is part of the action.
Okay.
I had actually done a review, and to help Ashley out, I said to her, I took a look at the open receivables, either they've been received or we're never gonna get them.
Right.
And then she had to work to try to figure out how to take them off the books, and this is the result.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Yep, so we're good?
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second?
So
We
moved.
did?
Second.
You have a motion, second, now a roll call. Councilman Calmari.
Yes.
Councilman Casio.
Yep.
Councilman Seer.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President Bruno.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, make a motion to adjournment to conference agenda, please.
So moved. So moved. Second.
Councilman Calamari?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Peters?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President Bruno?
Yes. First up, Project Tracker. I don't know if anybody has any questions on it. Seems like it actually got smaller, which is nice.
Yeah, well, as I explained, when it's recognized as being completed at one meeting, the following meeting it comes off. Ideally, we'll have one or two items. Wishful thinking.
So I know we had some emails that went back and forth regarding the trucks. So I believe the good news is the fire truck has probably been delivered.
The fire
Tahoe,
car.
yes.
Yeah, the car, right. So that's done?
Well, it's been delivered
Well, it has to be-
to the vendor.
Okay, but it's...
No, it was delivered in the parking lot today. We
Yeah.
took possession of the keys. It's being stored at the firehouse until they can deliver it to East Coast Lighting, which is just over the border, to get it outfitted. That purchase order's been in existence for 4 months or so.
Radios,
So we're all
lights.
set. Radios, lights, yeah, Tom knows.
I do have one, Mr. President.
Yep.
Police dispatcher.
What page?
The first page, the
Yep.
police dispatcher,
Yep.
we're supposed to have a decision.
Okay, talk about police dispatchers. As I reviewed how much of 5 full-time police dispatchers would cost us, right now we have 2 full-timers and 1 hourly part-timer. It would add several $100,000 to the budget because a
Excuse me?
dispatch...
700,000?
No.
Oh.
No,
I'll take the job.
Sure, I would. Right now, like I said, we have 2 full-time dispatchers, both of whom only get single medical coverage. They start around $40,000 for their pay, okay, plus the medical coverage, all right, plus they get vacation days, personal days, things like that. It's not just like they show up and cover the desk. So if we went with the 3 other ones, since they estimate that we would need 5 full-timers, with the applicants that we received, they would be receiving full-time medical coverage, which would mean they would cost us about $75,000 to $80,000 times 3, which is 240 plus the 100 or so we're paying now. So we wouldn't really be saving any money because those people, in order to save us money, would have to reduce overtime by that much. That would be impossible. And again, they get vacation days and they have a schedule where they work 5 days, off 2, work 5, off 3. So it's very difficult even to keep track. So right now, not unless they would be willing to work part-time hourly, okay, would I be hiring any of them at this point? We have a full complement on our police force right now. If we didn't, you know, that would be helpful. But if you have 5 people on your shift, let's say, plus a dispatcher, you know, it's really costing too much.
So I am kind of confused because the council has, for months, worked on this to get another dispatcher involved to reduce police overtime. We reviewed the numbers, we talked about it, went through interviews, we were told they needed a second interview, they needed a second report. We're told there was no decision, and now at the end, just about at the end of the year, we have no dispatcher, so we wasted,
Well, we have 2 full-timers
and
and
we
part-time.
put money in the budget for it.
How many hours are covered by dispatchers out of the 168 hours, I believe, is in a work week, if I'm not
They work-
mistaken?
They work,
What do we got covered?
they work 8 hour, well,
How many hours?
40 hours each,
40 hours each, so that's 80 hours, right?
just of the 2 full-timers.
Just for the 2 full-timers, and what about the
but don't
part-time?
forget, they work 5 to 5.
And how many hours are we covering with the part-time, just 20?
No, more than that.
More than
He
that.
works 8-hour shifts, probably 5 days a week.
Okay, so what
Gets
does
an
that bring us
hourly
to? That
wage.
brings us to,
No, he's not full-time, he's retired, so he's not.
so are we
makes
covering,
an
are we
hourly
covering the
wage.
desk 168 hours?
He works approximately, probably 30 hours.
So I don't see how not bringing someone on for a $40,000 a year job plus benefits is not cost effective as of putting a policeman on there for 80 hours, or $80 an hour, $80 plus an
Yeah,
hour.
but if you have a full complement of your force,
I would rather
have
I'd rather have the police out on the street patrolling the town as opposed to a policeman who has expanded functions sitting behind a desk answering telephones.
well, sometimes we have dispatchers and sometimes we have policemen.
But
But,
the
you know,
idea was to move the policemen out in the street,
Again, I
correct?
think
Exactly.
that
That's what we sat and we
this is
calculated.
how I feel about it, and I crunched the numbers, and, you know. if you
I think
could
the numbers are not correct.
Change it.
That's just my opinion.
We would have known that at budget time.
I mean, we did spend a lot of
You
time,
wouldn't
all
have
of us
enough,
crunching
you
numbers.
wouldn't have enough money to cover these.
So, again, I just don't see how it's ineffective to have a dispatcher
And to bring people in, interview.
at this point.
With the understanding that we were going to hire one, and then we, month after month, we're waiting to only find out that at the very end, it's not done.
Especially tonight, I'd like to have another policeman on the road.
Everybody has
Crazy
their
kids
view.
out there.
Yeah.
Well, they're in, it's past,
But are we,
it's past 8.
so, Madam Mayor, are we at a point that we're
I mean,
ready
if
to
one
make
of
an
them wants to
offer?
work part-time hourly, that's fine.
So you're looking for a part, do you have somebody that can work
There might be
part-time?
one of them who would be willing to do that. That person would be hired right away. But I don't feel that it's saving the township any money, it's costing money.
But I think if you bring, I think the idea is to eventually, I think these guys generally like to move up in the ranks, right? Correct?
Well, you know,
I
if we
mean,
were to
they like
have
to come in
less,
as dispatch and then eventually try and move up through the ranks
or
and get
or go to
involved.
another
so-
town, you know,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, where they have a police, where they have an opening.
All right, well, go ahead,
that's a
Mike.
no.
So can I just ask, is this, from your perspective, Madam Mayor, is this not going to happen this year?
No, not unless I
Okay.
get part-timers.
Okay, so I think that next year, when we sit down to talk about the budget, we'll have to put it in the budget again, and we'll have to work the numbers. I would agree with Councilman Casio, and I think Tom and Pete also said that, you know, having a officer behind the desk, the preference would be to have an officer on the street. But perhaps that's not the best use of their time and the taxpayers' dollars. We'll have to reassess that because I can't understand that.
Okay. So,
Can I ask about the police drainage?
what?
The police drainage, have we received the specification at this point?
We did receive a plan put together by both the engineering director and,
He's asking something different, Mayor, if I may ask.
he said the drainage. and-
No, he's asking for the specifications. They're aware of that. Last meeting, they authorized the advertisement for bids, and it's awaiting a specification from Mr. Statiel's office. It's.
Are you talking about in the,
The drain, so
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah, he's
drainage
asking
issue.
for- No, not just the plan. He's now focused on the specifications, which
Oh,
is
okay.
what we need
Okay.
to get us to the point of advertising. We do not have the final specifications yet, Michael. I expect them any day.
Okay. And given the amount of rain we had yesterday, did we have any issues?
I didn't receive a report of any. I didn't receive a CAD. I know that they did jury rig a leader off the, to drain the water out. There's also some other steps that have to happen besides specifications. I have to talk to Bill. They need to cut down those pine trees too. And I noticed today there's a lot of debris collecting on the roofs, and we have to get somebody out there to clean them.
I haven't gotten a report flooding there either today.
So I'll push Chris on it. I'll send him a text right now and ask him where it is, and
Yeah, I
ask.
mean, it seems like, and I know you know the importance of it, but, you know, it just,
And we have to go out. for
it
bid
seems
on
like he had the ideas, you know,
How come I
the
thought,
the roof.
Hey, let Michael finish talking, and I can.
You know, he had the roof, he had collection pits, a few other things. I mean, it sounded like he knew what he wanted, and now we're waiting. You know, it's going to be winter soon, the ground will be frozen, it'll just cause potentially other issues, so if he could, as you said, ask him, it would be appreciated.
But just on that note, it's very critical, especially on this one, to get the specifications right. You don't want to do the job wrong. This was something that shortly after I joined the township in the spring of 2016, the former DMF superintendent had thought he could fix it with having a landscaper do about $2,000 worth of work, and then Janet had suggested that we ask the director of engineer to take a look at the plan, and that's when we realized it was a much bigger project. So in any event, I will push Chris and see if he can get me the specs any day now.
We are going to use Republic funding.
Sure. I mean, it's
So, yes,
it's
well, I
pretty
wanna get
clear
it
it's a
done.
defective
Yep. It's a
design.
freebie.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on Tracker?
Yeah, Bob, just a couple quick things. The DMF ceiling, it says partially done, no change, but the dollar amount is $45, and the start date was back in August.
This is something they're doing themselves, just to add a little sheetrock for a stopgap. They personally didn't think they needed it, but it was something that Mr. Bruno had asked that to be done.
Okay.
And they did the main section, this section that is higher in elevation and it's remote, it's in the back, and for them, it's not a big priority.
I
But-
just wanted to make sure that dollar amount wasn't a typo.
No, it was
that we
just for
put
them to
something in
buy-
there for $44.
It was just for
They go
them to
Home
buy the
Depot.
materials.
They get it at Home Depot.
Okay.
So they're aware of it, and, you know,
Okay.
they'll get to it. They are
Okay.
awfully busy.
And second and last is computers. You know, I know
That's a good question.
we've been, working on this for months, and, I see it's kind of updated. Do we see it getting done this calendar year?
Well, there was as you know, we had to get multiple quotes, and finally was able to get the quotes put together. There's 3 different quotes because there's 3 different sources. The mayor has signed off on the one quote for the install and some smaller components. There's the biggest requisition was through a state website to purchase the hardware, the desktops, the monitors, and so forth. As far as I know, and Janet can speak more to this, my understanding is she doesn't want to get monitors for everyone. And I went around the offices measuring monitors the other day, so I don't know what the status is. I've asked if we could move forward. So, I mean, if we don't get...
If I could say something?
I got a
Certainly.
revised list last week.
Certainly, Madam.
Okay, and I do have a couple of questions on it. I was not able to get to Mary Ann today. There's a few monitors that we do need doubles of in the finance office, but I'd like to discuss a couple things with her on that, and hopefully I could get to it tomorrow. But
But apart
I
from-
want to get it done right away, but I'm sorry, I still have questions on the monitors.
To me, a couple of monitors isn't reason to hold up a $30,000 project. The monitors can be addressed separate. Well, I'm looking at 24 plus 3 plus 5 and on the list quickly.
Which is under budget, right?
We're
Yeah.
talking about a monitor that probably costs a couple of $100.
Exactly.
We have people upstairs who sit for 8 hours on their butts looking at a monitor, processing information. I have a monitor at work that is bigger than a TV that I have at home. They are not expensive. I don't understand
It's not that the
why we're
monitors,
not-
the monitors they have aren't bad. So I measured them.
I have
and
looked at the
19
monitors. I have not gone into every office. I have looked at the monitors. These monitors are archaic. Archaic. There's no reason, the cost benefit to give someone a monitor that they could see and reasonably interact with. I think we're being, penny foolish here. The increment is small.
I think it's
negligible.
going to increase productivity personally, and I said if that's the case, just reduce the number of monitors and we can wait and get them in a few months. Not to be callous, I want to
You're
move
making a
forward
purchase
with the
order.
project.
Making a purchase order, purchase what you need. We're $15,000 on the budget, at the $20,000, or whatever it is, I don't even know anymore. So,
I said to
we're
you,
on the budget, we have everything.
I did mark it up over the weekend. I did not have a chance to discuss it with Mary Ann
Okay, so
today.
when do you think we'll have a purchase order in for everything?
in a couple of days.
Okay, we'll check back.
And everybody's monitor is at least 19 inches, so,
All right. Yeah, but it's
and they're new.
19 inches and 19 years old.
I actually think they were like 17 inches, you measure on the diagonal. Peter actually was involved, he helped out when we did the initial assessment. And in the beginning, I remember when Sue first came on, talk about the monitors, and I thought, what's the problem with the monitors? But I have a big monitor, because I didn't even realize my predecessor had gotten a bigger monitor for himself, and I'm fine with it. And then when I realized no one else had it, I said, heck, everybody should have this size monitor.
Yeah,
It makes a
the price per
difference.
monitor versus the productivity that you can get out of a person is not even worth talking about.
So I'll send an email out with everybody on it the end of next week, and we'll get a status where we are, so. Anything else on tracker? Okay, we'll move to,
I
Quest.
just want to mention another positive that I didn't put on there. The mayor we hired another seasonal DMF employee who's starting tomorrow.
Good.
I mean, I know,
It's hard to get seasonal.
well, they were out all day yesterday in the pouring rain, clearing gutters and catch basins, so, I think it's work that a lot of us wouldn't want to be doing, so.
Especially on Sunday.
So
Every time they
thanks to
went back
them.
home, they were called back out again. But it's hard to find seasonal help. It really is.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, just one other thing, in looking at personnel, have we hired anyone for the building department? I don't see that on here.
Oh, because we hired, it was reported last time that we had hired someone.
Oh, okay.
She started, and thankfully, our former employee has been very gracious, has come in.
Over the weekend.
And had worked extra hours to try to help transition.
What's the woman's name? Bridie?
Bride.
Bride?
Bride and groom.
So is Vince out of there, or he's still helping with the training, or?
No, he's upstairs, he's as necessary.
Okay.
It's good to have the cross-training there.
Thank you.
He does run back and forth, though, Peter. Okay. Quest? We're catching up to date?
Who?
Quest.
Well,
Apparently, we have a lot of garbage cans in the back with soil, so.
not garbage cans, they're drums.
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 They're more ominous looking than
Okay.
garbage cans. There's an issue, as I understand it, I didn't get so involved with this phase that Ken and the mayor had been involved with working with Quest, but my understanding is this phase involved the project we just did, and then there's one other item of trying to install monitoring wells on one of our neighbors' properties down here on Pascack, and there's an issue of access that Ken's trying to work on.
Yeah, no, it's not installing wells, it's taking samples from the...
Oh, there are
existing
wells already
There's
there?
already wells that were already installed. It
Oh,
was a question
okay.
of access to get samples.
Right.
And I did send a letter request, and I have not gotten a response. There was resistance in the past. We were hoping maybe there wouldn't be resistance. Now, there looks like there may be resistance, and we may have to take some action to get access.
Down below? Down below?
Yes.
Is it invasive, or they like go in and collect the?
Yes, collecting samples from the existing well.
Okay, so you'll let us know, Ken?
Yes.
And is that accurate, Ken, that they're beyond those two steps? That's it for the time being?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, move to council matters. First one is the Memorial Field. There was a letter that was sent, and this has been revised to correctly word it. So it's to sod the entire field, I guess, beginning in December after football season. The intent was to use surplus money and hoping that would expedite any bidding process involved. So I have it on the agenda. Any comments? Madam Mayor, you were on the committee. Anything from you?
No, it's up to council what they want to solve.
Well, I think at the
No,
last
okay, I
meeting,
know. I'm just,
I had asked for at least
There's
the
a lot of
cost
different
estimate.
opinions as to whether the whole field should be sodded, part of the field should be sodded, or it should just be grass seed and keep it up as best as possible. There's a lot of options, you know.
right, so Mr. Terwilliger sent a letter to the council and to the mayor tonight, which basically said that the committee, I guess he doesn't feel the letter should have gone to the council, but it's here. So we can have further discussions, or the committee can have further discussions and come back to us again.
Bob, do we have that letter here?
He sent it on an email
Oh, okay.
this afternoon. Yeah,
I have a copy.
I didn't print it because it came in late.
So I guess my question would be, if we just continue to extend the discussion of the computers, is we can have a discussion, we can reach a decision. First, it's not in the budget, so there would be a need to utilize surplus. And before we have this like drawn-out discussion, my question to you, Madam Mayor, is, you know, where do you stand, or what is your feeling on it? I mean, I personally feel that sodding in December is not the best thing to do, but, you know, I could be persuaded otherwise. But regardless, if we decide to, if there's a consensus to sod, you know, is that something you would support, or is it something that...
Well, first of all, I want to clear one thing. If we sod, the fact that we take money out of surplus doesn't expedite the bidding process, does it?
Not that I'm aware of.
I just want to make sure, because everybody keeps writing it that way.
No, wait, but, yeah, you can't, if you can have capital surplus, it does expedite the process in that you have to have the money available to go out to
So it
bid.
doesn't mean you don't have to go
So
out.
if you don't have it and you have to wait to next year's budget, it does give you that, it does expedite to that extent.
Right, but it doesn't mean to expedite the bidding process itself.
No, well, it does, because you can't go out to bid if you don't have the money.
But you didn't use this in capital when we budgeted. We put it in current fund 2 years ago.
Yeah, but you could put it as a capital item. You chose to, because this council has, I've gotten the impression you like to incur things in the current budget rather than incur debt. So that was my understanding of why you
No,
did it that way.
I don't think that's why we did it. I think we put it in the current surplus because we were talking about resurfacing the field 2 years ago, which didn't get done. The capital surplus is something that we discovered that we had, you know, several $100,000 in that fund also.
We did earmark some of that for certain projects.
Wait,
I don't know
maybe
if
I'm
we did or we didn't.
misunderstanding. Are you suggesting
I'm
use
not
the...
suggesting anything,
Oh, okay.
just so
Okay.
you understand.
Okay.
But, so, we don't have to go out and bond this, because in a generic sense, there is monies available to us. Would that be an accurate statement?
Well, you could either transfer money starting after November 1 from accounts that have not used all their money. You could transfer and put it into an account to fund it. You can take it out of the capital surplus. If you recall, we tried to use that for smaller projects like 40,000, 45,000, something like that. And we pay cash for it, so we don't have to bond. I did ask the engineer to give us prices, I haven't gotten them yet, what it would cost to do the whole field, or part that wears out a lot where the football area is, or, you know, not to do anything. I would be okay with doing that one area where it's really worn out, you know, which area it is. I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I would not be in favor of doing the entire field.
So you would like to do between the numbers, end zone to end zone?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But I still think there's, you know, based upon Dave's letter, I think the committee needs to come to a real consensus, because there seems to be some question as to what the validity is, as to who voted for what, and perhaps maybe Dave and Mr. Dugan can come next meeting and have a conversation with us.
Mr. Ullman, what would you want?
I don't...
Never comes.
I am, I don't believe sodding is the solution temporarily. If it was the permanent solution with the other aspects being addressed, drainage and things of that nature, then sod
Would be okay.
would be. I feel that 2 years ago, and this is my personal opinion, 2 years ago, there was a concerted effort by the DMF to maintain the field. They aerated it multiple times, they overseeded multiple times, they fertilized, and, in my opinion, the field was in better shape 2 seasons ago than this season. And I feel, and perhaps I just missed updates or it wasn't as apparent, that that level of care was not done this year.
Actually, they did more this year because we had a professional service come in and do some of that work.
And we had it aerated on a regular basis, we had it overseeded, we had it fertilized on a regular basis.
Yep.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I did speak to the DMF acting superintendent, and he feels that they would rather do that again. They're not in favor of the sodding.
The other thing is, and the letter speaks to the surface. The letter doesn't speak to offloading some use on the field for football earlier in the season, perhaps practicing using Sherry Field. I don't know if that is part of the dialogue, but until a permanent solution is arrived at, having football and lacrosse on that field every day, beats it into submission. Again, when I drive past, the teams are playing, they're broken up by, I guess, age or weight class, and there is a group that stands, right on the 20-yard line or and practices. I don't see them moving around. I don't drive past every day, but, can we rotate? Can they move to that disused corner up against the hill?
Unfortunately, I think for lacrosse, it's I think a little easier for them to move around.
Okay.
Different sections, but not as much for football. They really concentrate in that area.
Okay.
But,
Steve, any thoughts? Dr. Cassio?
Do you have any thoughts? Not at this time.
Mr. Sears?
Yeah, I have seen the teams basically rotate around the field, but some of the conditions are, most of the lights, or some of the lights are out, so to have a real clear practice, they have to stay within the perimeters of where the field is lit. So basically, they are confined to a small space because of the burnt-out lights. But if you go to a game on the weekend, a couple of games been going to, they use the whole field for practice and everything. But again, they're confined because of lighting on that field.
well, actually, when they have a game, like if the Pee-wees are playing, the other teams are practicing on the other side, so they use the whole field, basically, every time there's a game.
So, Tom, your thoughts on sodding beginning December and surplus and expedite?
But we have to do something, and obviously, the seeding and the fertilizing or whatever they're doing is not sufficient. And sodding would carry us through 2 years until we come up with a decision on something.
But I mean, beginning of December, I'm saying.
Now, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Peter?
Yeah, thank you. We're getting tight for time on this. I'm almost going to say we have to decide next meeting whether it's a go or no-go. So there's certain questions that I would like definite answers on for the next meeting. How much to do the whole field? How much to do an abbreviated part of the field? Because I don't even know if the council voted to do the whole field, if it would get spent. Again, I don't know if our engineer is the right person to ask about sodding and, will it take in December or not. I'd like to have someone knowledgeable here who can answer that question. I don't know if that falls under an engineer or if we need a turf type person.
I think the engineer would know that.
Okay, then if he could be here. and that-
Peter, why don't you put those down, we can ask him, because I have to call him
Okay,
about
well, you know what,
the
but
pricing anyway.
there's a committee out there, so maybe we should have a work session with the committee or have Mr. Dugan come in with.
Or make a
with-
separate meeting with them.
Well, yeah, I think we should. I don't think we have a choice at this point, so,
We could do that,
all right. So you'll do that, you'll talk to Mr. Dugan?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to Class 3 SLEO Police Officer Statute.
Okay, so I think at the last meeting, this issue came up about appointing this new type of police officer special. So this thing came into effect, and there was a question of whether it was in effect. It is. It came into effect June of this year. And so the Class 3 officer is available. Basically, the Class 1 is an officer who can do disorderly persons offenses and summonses and tickets and things like that. Class 2 is a regular police officer who carry a firearm and so forth. Class 3 is a retired police officer who could be appointed to public and non-public schools and within 100 feet, I think, of a school, or at least on the school premises. And there's a statute about what the classification is and what the training is. I can send you copies of this if you want it, and put that into our police ordinances. We can do that.
Would that have to be codified?
It's interesting.
Well,
it's interesting. I did take a look at some of at the way our code is worded in such a way. It just says police officer, special police officer. So it's general enough, the way I read it, to appoint as is.
Okay.
Because it really doesn't even say Class 1, Class 2. If it did, then I think you'd have to put and other towns actually, they mimic the statute by putting Class 1, Class 2. I think they actually have to put in.
I'm sorry, can you hang on 1 second till they clear out? That's okay, I'll wait till you clear out.
So I don't know that I have to take another look at it to make sure about the codification. It seems that it just says special police officers.
And that you feel that would cover?
I think it does.
Okay.
And is their role limited to schools?
Yes.
Within 100 feet, I think.
Full powers and duties similar to those of a permanent, regularly appointed full-time police officer while providing security in a public or non-public school or a county college on the school or college premises during hours when the public or non-public school or county college is normally in session.
Now, Ken, will they be hired by the school, or will they be
No,
They have
hired
to be
by
hired
the
by the
town
municipality.
By the municipality,
for the school?
for the school.
Ken, does it matter much, or how does it work since we're a regional school system? If we pass this, Westwood didn't, is it the schools within our town that it would apply to?
It has to be within your municipality. So
Okay. So
if Westwood
we're
decided,
regionalized.
if Westwood decided not to do it, you can't obviously make them do it. I'm sure
But it would be
there's
the towns
enough.
the schools located in our town?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm sure Westwood would not have a problem. Again, it's basically a three-party program. Westwood has to do it, Washington Township has to do it, and the school would have to agree to have one.
I could reach out to the attorney for Westwood, ask him if he's had discussions or if they would put it on the agenda.
Sounds like a
take
good
look.
idea.
I talked to, I
All
just
three of us
briefly
should agree
talked to
on it,
Mayor
ideally.
Bertner about it, and we haven't discussed it really in depth, and I said, it seemed like a good idea. He was aware of the program, so, again, if you
I
reach
think the
out to him, that would
school
be
is
great.
aware of those programs.
Yeah, the school's aware of it as well.
I mean, but don't forget, our policemen go every day. They do walkthroughs every day in the school.
That's good.
Yeah,
And do they
that's good,
also-
but, go ahead, Mike.
No, do they also control traffic at the schools, or at the high school?
No, I don't think.
No, not traffic.
No.
They don't do any
I
traffic?
mean, our policemen can patrol traffic.
Class
but they're
1
not-
does that. If you- I
but
mean,
they stay over, they get overtime.
See, that's where the savings would come.
That's what
with
I'm
this, is because.
She
with-
misunderstood. Currently, our officers do, this type of officer would
Right.
not, she said.
Would not.
We're doing,
I don't know if they.
No, sure they can.
Seems like they would be able
You have to
to.
make sure they can do traffic control.
They
Well,
can do
within
pretty
100
much
feet.
everything, and again, remember, it's a part-time position. this is usually, or I think it has to be retired police officer. They're usually capped at 30 hours. So instead of sending an officer down to do, we always have an officer or two at a football game. You could have the Class 3 down there doing the same function, and it would save everyone money
Well, yeah,
all
that-
around because it's a
right.
reduced price.
If we, yeah,
You know,
we could.
again,
right.
it's really for two reasons. One, it's a little bit more cost effective.
But we don't pay for the
Okay.
officers at the games, they do.
It's coming out of my pocket, whether you want to do your pie chart with municipal, state,
I know,
or
but-
local, it's coming out of my pocket.
know,
So if
but
I can
still.
make that pie a little bit smaller for everyone, I think everyone would be happy.
Okay, so,
At this point.
I mean, I'm just looking at the statutory authorization. So while on duty in the jurisdiction of employment, an officer may respond to offenses or emergencies off school or college grounds if they occur in the officer's premise while traveling to a school facility or county college, but an officer shall not otherwise be dispatched or dedicated to any assignment off school or college property.
Right.
So I don't know that that allows him to go into the street, into our streets and be a traffic officer. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
Well,
not
that's-
saying that.
that's-
You were
I think-
talking about traffic, right?
Yeah, he's talking about
Okay, I was
traffic.
talking about security at, like, a football game or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
but before
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
you mentioned the traffic.
Yeah, that's-
But on that note, Ken, I believe our current ordinance does have a traffic officer in it.
Well, our current ordinance allows the appointment of Class 1 police, a special police officer.
For a traffic control.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
yeah, it's special, yeah, but I'm talking about the Class 3 person.
Okay, no, but I'm just saying, just so they know, because one of the concerns is they want to assign officers or use officers to do the traffic at the high school.
No, not talking about traffic. I'm talking about
Okay.
other functions that we send police officers down there for that would free up, we'll put another policeman on the road, so to
Okay.
speak. And then it can be a cost-sharing thing, no matter whose pocket you take the check out of, it comes out of
But
our
there are-
pockets anyway.
There
You
are
know, and they're
also
there.
guidelines for who you can put on overtime first. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are certain protocols.
Well, you'd have to make new protocols because it'd be a new class of officer.
No, you would have
Yeah.
to do that.
Well, I don't know about that because when you're talking about.
I'm just saying, there are a lot of things you have to consider.
Yeah, there's things you have to consider, but if you have someone on, basically this new class of officer, it wouldn't really affect that at all, because you'd have to be a retired police officer doing that P3, right?
Sounds like
Okay.
we need more information on
We
it.
need some more information.
Yeah.
Again, it's a cost, it does two things. It puts someone in the school at all times, you know, and it saves some money up front.
Yeah, it
So-
would be very expensive to use the regular ones.
It would be very expensive.
So where are we?
More information would be great.
More information.
Okay.
I'll try and get more down at the league. I'm sure they're gonna have people there talking about it, so I'll get some more
Okay.
information.
Thank you. Tiger Grant update?
Tiger Grant?
Is that you, Steve?
Yeah, I haven't heard back from Congressman's office lately, so I don't know what's going on with that. We still have time to get one in for this year.
Okay.
But, you know, again, there's limitations with that particular grant for certain things, and, you know, it's not a new program. It's been out for about 5 or 6 years, but it's generally for infrastructure. So I'll try and contact their office this week or next week.
Okay, thank you. East Glen, 35 miles per hour. I know I
I
put
know
this
it was
on.
brought up again at the last meeting, and as I said then, and the time before that, if you want to pursue it, we need 3 votes, okay? Because it's a lot of work for the police department, it's a lot of work for the county. We have to come up with all our traffic reports, how many accidents were there, and all this. The county then has to perform their own study there and look at their own records. If they deem that it's dangerous enough or whatever, it meets the criteria they have to then go to the freeholder board and get an ordinance passed to change it. So you really have to be committed to doing it, since all these steps have to be taken by everybody. And we are willing to do it, the Washington Township Police Department, but you have to be committed through the whole process. So,
I do see a letter from the county engineer, and she posted speed is 35 mile per hour zone, and she does state that because of this type of curve and hill, vehicles occasionally go off the road in the snow covered by ice and conditions.
But you gotta remember, Tom, that particular portion of what you're talking about where the curve is, that is marked 25, okay? Every straight portion of Ridgewood Road is 35.
Correct.
All right, so it already has taken into account that reduction of speed. Okay,
Understand.
and going down, going east on East Glen is 20 going down.
But the gentleman that requested this states that there's no sidewalks along this road, a path for children to walk on. And he stressed that in his letter, one of the conditions to lower the speed to 25. So, and I understand what you're saying, you're right, I drove it and I looked at it.
Yeah, it's just,
So I believe that's his content of trying to reduce the speed on that road for the safety of the citizens. And that's why I brought it up again. He's requested that we look at it.
We threw this on, so we threw this on. We threw this on the agenda months ago.
I'm sorry, there's five
Yeah, I'm sorry.
conversations.
So we threw this on the agenda months ago, and it didn't go anywhere. And then I threw it on a second time, and it still didn't go anywhere.
And then Sue emailed everybody also.
Well, and I know the Chief Hooper sent a note of, there is a lot of work that has to get done, so, and I think, if we say yes, at the last time, we didn't think it was worth the effort to do, so it's changed, but if we say yes, then there's a lot of work that has to get done. Traffic studies, you have to go to the county, I forget what Chief Hooper's letter said, but we can dig it out, unless you want to dig it out and bring it up again next week and then have it again. I don't have it in front of me.
One more thing, Bob. The other issue is it's an incline, and if you reduce that down to 25, some cars are gonna have difficulty maintaining that speed, getting up the hill, because that's a steep incline. So I would be opposed to changing it personally. I'm sorry there's no curbs there, but again, we can't, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't make them put curbs in the property owners, right?
No.
It's just the way those properties are.
So anybody else want to give their opinion?
Well, my only question is the comment from Captain Hackworth, excuse me, correct? I thought on the Ridgewood side, it drops to 25, and that's the problem. You come up over the hill doing 35, you go down the hill, and you get, there's a officer.
It is less in Ridgewood.
It's 25.
Yeah.
In Ridgewood. So, listen, if the residents are asking for it.
How many residents asked for it? Because I only got one email.
I think it was the one gentleman, I don't know.
Yeah, I got the one gentleman and his neighbor, when I went down there to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I get an email, I assume it's from one person, not from
Right.
a group.
And again, it's for the council to decide. I don't have a problem with it if it's a safety issue.
If three
I'm
of you
for
say,
safety for
okay,
the
we're
community.
ready to go, but, we really need,
But what I'd like to do is get Chief Hooper's letter again, because there's a lot of work involved, so let's know what we're committing to. So can we put this on the next agenda? If it's okay with the letter, so we know what it is we're looking at?
Yeah, let's put it back. Put it back on.
Good.
In his letter, did it make reference to how many accidents or any incidents there have been on this
No, we have
stretch?
to do
we
it.
have to put down how many
Okay.
accidents, what type they were, and
There's a lot of work that needs to get done just to
Yeah.
get
the
this.
county
I just
compared
didn't
to
know if we
what-
could do a preliminary, if they could look up accidents over the past 3 years real
Most of
quick.
the
to
accidents
guide
that
us.
occur at that thing, and you live right in the area, it's going down the hill in inclement weather, okay?
Yeah.
And that's already marked 20.
Yeah.
Going up is
Yeah.
a different issue.
And when I go down that hill in ice or snow, I go down at 5, I don't care what the speed limit
Of
is.
course, of
So,
course.
it's a moot point.
As
Peter,
weather
don't you
dictates.
go slow when you go down?
All right, so
Thank
next
you.
week, next meeting, we'll go through everything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Though, Madam Mayor, I do have a comment about when you come down the bottom of Hampshire and looking out on East Glen, those bushes that are by the substation, I guess that's a water pump?
Yes.
Those are overgrown. I don't know if the county takes care of that, or we take care of some of that stuff.
That's Suez.
I think that's Suez.
But
Suez.
someone's got to
water,
pull, because you have to pull out into the middle
Pretty far.
of the street to see,
On Hampshire?
pulling
Yeah.
out from
It's
Hampshire
Out of Hampshire
onto East Glen.
Oh,
It's that
look-
big sump pump
I know where
station
you're
they have.
To look
I'll mention it
eastbound.
I'll mention it to Bernadette, she'll call them, she's good
Because
about
it's,
that.
you know, it's overgrown, and I think that's probably more of a traffic hazard than a lot of things.
Okay. Project Hart. Yep,
Bob, just
yep.
one quick thing, because it has to do with traffic, even though it's not East Glen. When we went to the town forum at the high school, one of the students asked a very good question about putting a light or something at the intersection of Pascack and Linwood, because that's quite a dangerous intersection also. So just something we should consider down the line. Just wanted to mention it.
I assume those are county roads, so that's a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
nother...
Right.
Okay, Project Heartbeat AED donation. Actually, Sue sent the letter out a while ago, and I had questioned if we get one of these devices, like where do we put it, who uses it, who gets trained? And I really had no answers for it, so I think we're going to get, what is it, Sue? We're going to get more information now?
Well,
So you have a whole packet in your packet now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Bob, I had received the initial inquiry from this organization, and they
Yeah.
wanted to be in touch with the rec department. That's where they thought it would be, at the fields or somewhere.
Okay.
It was, so they've been talking to Ann Lawson, is my understanding, to work through this.
I know.
Can I ask, are we talking about the correct, are we sure we're due it? Because the letter states, in conjunction with Project Heartbeat, Warren Township has been
Yeah.
chosen to
I
receive.
think
That's
that's
I think
Washington
it's,
Township
I think
in North
I think it's
Jersey.
for Long Valley, like Washington. Bob Stickle was here before, you probably saw him in the audience. And out in Morristown area, they have this project going on, and he thinks it's for that project. And, you know, he has donated all the AEDs to our fields.
Right.
So our fields are all taken care of, but he thinks it's a mistake also.
Well, I think I recalled asking the woman, I think it came up in our conversation, and I thought we identified it was right place, but I could be wrong. It was so long ago, I feel like it was right before a council meeting.
But you know, when I spoke
Months
to her
ago.
today, I asked her where else she had done the presentation, because she was under the impression that she would come in and do a presentation, everybody would sign on, Janet would sign the agreement, and she'd walk out the door. And I said, no, that's not how we do things here. So I asked her, I said, where else have you done it? And she mentioned Wayne, she mentioned Bernardsville, she mentioned Wharton. I said,
She's up north.
who in Bergen
She's
County
way out.
have you done? And she said, no one. I said, well, there's the difference.
So,
So, you know, she knows we're Bergen County. I told her we were Bergen County. She said it would be a distance to drive to, so we could be the first.
so
But
Tom, can I ask Tom, so Tom, you did a whole exercise
The town is covered.
raising,
We're 100% covered. Fire department, police department, road department, seniors, football fields.
Actually, Mr. Stickle's gonna email me all the AEDs he's given us, where they all are, how much training he's provided. He had it with him tonight, just in case.
I mean, we should always take a donation, I think, but if it's something that
But-
we don't need,
But we should
Well,
also
we have to know
talk
how
him.
what we're doing with it.
We have to run it by the JIF and see if we have to give indemnification. And they're supposed to give us indemnification.
Hold on.
Sorry.
But, Mike, they're supposed to give us indemnification.
No, if they're donating it, they don't want to give us
Oh,
indemnification.
well.
However, I would never give an indemnification without just giving the
All
okay,
right.
since obviously we want them to cover
No,
us.
I agree.
Okay, so the plot thickens. We have to go to JIF then, huh?
We do have that.
That's if you want, yes.
so can we find out, and I don't know who makes the assessment, is there a gap or is there a need for this equipment? If there is, then we should ask the JIF, and then we can accept it.
Then we can accept it.
Okay. And
We'll have to find out, though, if what we have is enough.
okay. Who can make that assessment? Would,
You go to Fedini, right?
well,
We could start
Jif?
with
No? Well, the GIF he
Well, we
would.
pass it to him, he would ask them.
Okay, so we ask Vic Fedini?
That's as the GIF.
What?
That's for the indemnity.
No, I
That's just
understand
the-
that,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But, you
No,
know,
but
there's
we're
a couple of
talking
things on the
about
table,
how
right?
many we need, how many we should have. Maybe Northwest Bergen Health, I don't know.
Okay, can we
They
ask
might have
that?
some, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good with the Project Heartbeat?
Yep.
Beating a lot tonight, so. Dumpsters, stormwater management.
Just was a question, remember that Mr. Ullman had raised whether dumpsters are covered by our stormwater management. I mean, they are, but it's not covered in terms of regulation of how long you can have them or things like that. It's just basically provisions that, you know, you have to keep them covered, you can't allow leaking out of the dumpster into the stormwater system. That was, you know.
Okay.
Sue follows up on every question you guys ask.
She does.
But if so if they're not covered, if they're not covered, is it grounds to have it removed?
Well, okay, yes, it's a violation. Then if it's not covered, yes, then it's a violation. It says here, you must ensure that such container or dumpster is covered at all times and shall prevent refuse from spilling out or overflowing. And any
No, it's
person
sitting
who
here.
owns, leases, or otherwise uses or refuses, uses a refuse container or dumpster must ensure that such container or dumpster does not leak or otherwise discharge liquids, semi-liquids, or solids to the municipal stormwater system. Penalties, police department is the enforcing agency, and there are violations. It's a violation.
Ken, what statute is that under?
Well, that's, it's,
What chapter?
well, it's ordinance 15-12, chapter 243. 243-8.2.
So any place we see a roll-off, in theory, it should be covered?
Yeah, any kind of refuse container, any waste container that a person controls whether owned, leased, or operated, including dumpsters, trash cans, garbage pails, and plastic trash bags.
And Ken, if they're doing construction, whether it's commercial or residential, they need a dumpster to put their refuse in, right? Their building waste?
Well, I mean, you're asking me, do they have to have a dumpster for construction? I mean,
If they do.
If they, it's not, I can't tell you construction-wise whether they have to have a dumpster, whether they haul it away each day. I don't know, construction-wise, whether that's true.
Okay.
There are exceptions to this, let's see. Let's see here. Exceptions to prohibition. Permitted temporary demolition containers, litter receptacles, individual homeowner trash and recycling containers, refuse containers. But I can't tell you whether they're required to have a construction, you know, if they do a construction, they have to have a dumpster.
Okay. Thank you.
Meeting's getting long. We missed one of our members. He just walked out on us.
He said he had to take a quick break. So
Okay.
he handled something nature's call.
Yeah.
All right, so if we're done, we can...
Go into closed?
Yeah, we can go into closed.
Motion to go into closed.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm to follow the other gentleman, and I'll be back.
So motion to
Just
close,
quickly,
yes?
before you go into close,
Yes.
can I
Pete
ask
seconded.
Sue
Yeah,
why
no,
she
yeah.
put
No,
this
didn't.
application, this commuter parking application in front of us?
Fire seats, yeah.
It was just in case it was anything, like, if you look at what Ken had redrafted, it was similar to what the original one was, and
No, we
when
just
I
wanted to
read it,
know why
It doesn't
you
seem
left
to
it,
align
yeah.
with what we put out with the new one.
This doesn't align with what you just introduced.
No. That's what I was telling him. That's what went out to everybody when we had introduced the first one
Well-
and passed the first one.
Well, don't you think this all should be coordinated?
I mentioned that to Ken.
Are you
tonight, and
asking
he said
for
that-
feedback? Can we just hand it to you, or?
What are you talking
We
about?
didn't know why we
What I'm
had
saying
this.
is the application should match the ordinance. That matched what
So
we
when
had, what we had.
But
introduced the
who's,
new one.
wouldn't you do the application?
Yes, but I wanted everybody to know that if you read the ordinance, that is what the application looks like, that are in people's hands right now, not the ordinance that you're introducing.
I'm going to tell
Okay, so
Ricky
talk
we're
to-
in closed.
So when we change the ordinance,
she's gotta
what you're
take the
saying,
roll.
the
Take the-
application
take the
will be
roll.
updated also.
Did you go into
Okay.
close? Did you take the
Ayes
vote?
Yes, we
first,
did.
he
I
seconded,
seconded.
and we need a roll,
Okay.
please.
Councilman Calhoun?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Sears? Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President Bruno?
Yes.